Hi, this is a PowerPoint video about U.S. foreign policy after the Cold War. So again, the Soviet Union collapsed December 25th, 1991, for a confluence of factors. Communism did not work. The decline of oil prices really hurt the Soviet economy. Third, there is the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, which really angered the Ukrainians. It's the Ukrainians pulling out that causes the Soviet Union to collapse. And also, the war in Afghanistan was a mess, a disaster for the Soviet Union. So, in terms of the United States, it left us and our government wondering, after the Cold War, what should our foreign policy be? Should we help the poor and sick and needy around the world, people who are starving or maybe hit by a hurricane? Should we give them humanitarian aid like food and medicine? Should we protect the sea lanes and international trade? Should we fight drugs? Should we fight global warming? Should we protect our allies? China was still communist. Iran, North Korea, were those our main enemies now? Should we do all the above? Should we do none of the above? Should we be more isolationist and save the taxpayers' money by doing less abroad? So there was a lot of debate. And what you're going to see here is that with the end of the Cold War, did American foreign policy swing to the left towards interventionism or to the right towards isolationism? So again, the Soviet Union collapses in 1991. Just going back for 1 second, in 1990, Saddam Hussein, the general and dictator who ruled Iraq here, he invaded Kuwait. And we viewed that as a big problem. A lot of countries saw it as a problem because it would give Saddam a lot more oil and power and money. And we didn't want him, we viewed him as a bad dictator. We didn't want him getting control over a lot of the world's oil. So to make a long story short, we pushed Saddam Hussein's Iraqi troops out of Kuwait. And this is what it looks like. We went in and we pushed them out of Kuwait. But we left Saddam Hussein in power. And we'll come back to that in a little bit. One of the Saudi Arabians who offered to help was Osama bin Laden. He was the son of a Saudi billionaire. Osama bin Laden's dad made $1 billion plus in construction, building highways and airports and that kind of thing. And Osama bin Laden had been using that money to pay for some soldiers in Afghanistan. We called them Muslim freedom fighters, Mujahideen, and they were fighting against the Soviet Union up here when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden offered to help Saudi Arabia and help the U.S. push out the Iraqi troops who were next door in Kuwait. And the U.S. sort of said, no, thank you to Osama bin Laden. You kind of have this private army of your own soldiers. We see that as kind of shady and unreliable. No, thank you. And that's when Osama bin Laden kind of broke and was no longer a U.S. ally, and we'll come back to that. So again, 1990, 1991, we push Saddam Hussein's Iraqi troops out of Kuwait. Then in 1992, outgoing Republican President George H.W. Bush and Democratic incoming President Bill Clinton made a deal, and it was a free trade agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, made with Canada and the U.S. and Mexico. And it lowered tariffs. It lowered tariffs. By this point in U.S. history, you've got some of the world's best products. We want to sell them overseas, sell them abroad, and so we're trying to lower tariffs to encourage trade between those countries. That's 1992. 1993, Somalia here. Somalia's in the northeast tip of Africa here. And Somalia had this horrible civil war. A lot of innocent people and women and children were starving. And we tried to deliver humanitarian aid. That's food, medicine, clothing, and that sort of thing. But one of our helicopters was shot down. 18 American soldiers died. And it was really a disaster for the U.S. So what was the impact on foreign policy? After that, do you think our foreign policy became more interventionist or more isolationist? So the next year, in 1994, in Rwanda, in Central Africa, there was a genocide. The Hutus killed the Tutsis. This is a genocide. and roughly 800,000 people, almost 1 million people died in about 100 days or 3 months in the spring of 1994. It's absolutely horrible. You see some of the killing here. And what did the U.S. do? Did the U.S. intervene? Yes or no? Why or why not? So after that, we didn't do anything. We didn't try to stop it. And so watch what happens the next time there's a foreign policy crisis. Let's go up here to Southern Europe. And you're going to see what happens when Yugoslavia breaks up. Please remember that Austria-Hungary lost World War I, 1914 to 1918. And so that Treaty of Versailles in 1919 took some Austro-Hungarian land and they made a new country, Yugoslavia. That means the Southern Slavs. And this is in the Balkans. So basically they put together Yugoslavia of all these different groups, Croatia, Serbs, Bosnians, Kosovars, Macedonians. And by 1992, it had broken up again into those different countries. Serbia, here's Serbia, one of the big powers in the area, and it was led by a leader, Slobodan Milosevic, and we thought he was horrible, and he promised to make Serbia great again, and he said, you know, the Serbs are great, and we should really be taking over. And by the mid-1990s, you had some horrible fighting. And to make a long story short, the Serbs here are Orthodox Christians, and they invaded Bosnia here, and they said it was to help the pink Serbs here, the Bosnian Serbs. And in the process, the Serbs absolutely attacked and killed a lot of these Bosnian Muslims in green. So the Serbs did some horrible, horrible killing. Now this time, NATO got involved. So remember, NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's the US and Canada and European countries like England and France and Germany and Italy. And this time, because NATO really did nothing in Rwanda to stop the killing in Rwanda, now here the pendulum swings again, action, reaction, and this time NATO got involved. So we bombed Serbia. This is Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, and Serbia stopped attacking. Another issue was North Korea, right? So let's go now to the Far East here, right? And in between Japan and China is North Korea, and North Korea is a communist country. And they basically shut themselves off from the world because China had pushed them around for centuries, and then Japan ruled them in World War II, and North Korea became communist. And they were developing nuclear weapons. And we see that today still as a threat. So what should we do about that? You can't really invade North Korea because it's got so many cannon and guns and missiles, it could blow up South Korea and its capital, Seoul, in a second. So this is kind of an ongoing issue still today, and North Korea's got these nuclear weapons that it uses to protect itself. All right, now let's go back here to 1990s. Okay, now what we're going to do here is, what's going to happen here is your 9/11 attacks. Okay, so on September 11th, 2001, Osama bin Laden, right? Osama bin Laden, the Saudi Arabian, yes, here he is, and here's his father. His father was a billionaire in construction in Saudi Arabia. And again, Osama bin Laden had used Dad's money to fund the Mujahideen Muslim freedom fighters against the Russian communists, who a lot of them did not believe in God, and the Muslim Mujahideen believed in God that they call Allah. So remember that Osama bin Laden broke with the United States because we said no thank you to his offer of help against Saddam Hussein back in 1990. And so roughly 10 years later, September 11th, 2001, Osama bin Laden's terrorist group, known as Al-Qaeda, which means the base in Arabic, they hijacked 4 U.S. passenger planes and committed a bunch of terrorist attacks, okay? So 2 of the planes came out of Boston, and they hit the World Trade Centers, which then fell down. and one of the planes hit the Pentagon, which is the building. It's the headquarters of our U.S. military in Virginia, right across the river from Washington, D.C. It's kind of like Cambridge and Boston. And then there was a struggle aboard the last plane, and it crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. So, with the 9/11 terrorist attacks, after that, did U.S. foreign policy swing towards isolationism or interventionism? And again, you should think of U.S. foreign policy as operating on the sort of pendulum swinging back and forth. So, we're going to intervene. In 2001, President George W. Bush, a Republican, helped the government of Afghanistan, called the Northern Alliance, remove the Taliban. Who was the Taliban? The Taliban was the previous government. Basically, they're made up of a bunch of religious students. That's what Taliban means. It means students. And why did we help the Northern Alliance kick out the Taliban? Because we held the Taliban responsible. They had let Osama bin Laden's terrorists, the Al-Qaeda group, train in Afghanistan. And we were trying to send a message to the Taliban, to the world. If you let terrorists train in your territory and those terrorists then attack the United States, we're going to hold you responsible. And Afghanistan was a mess. It is very divided geographically. It's made up of a bunch of different ethnic groups, and they speak different languages. And so the United States troops were in Afghanistan until 2021, trying to build a country, and hasn't really been that successful. And today, the Taliban is back in charge. In 2003, George W. Bush had the U.S. invade Iraq because President Bush believes Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, that is, nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. So we wanted to go in and knock him out of power before, he developed a lot of nukes or more nukes or get nukes. And Saddam Hussein hid. He was found. He was put on trial here. He was found guilty by an Iraqi court, and he was killed. So from a military standpoint, our troops went right in. We won the war very quickly. We found him. We put him on trial, and we killed him or executed him. But Iraq also was a mess. Iraq is made up of these different groups, different ethnic groups, different religions. Some of them speak different languages, and they kind of had a civil war, and we tried to kind of put the country together so they wouldn't be poor or desperate, and they wouldn't have terrorism, and we tried to have stability. Here you see some American troops working with some Iraqis, and again, the United States troops were in Afghanistan and Iraq for a long time, and it cost a lot of money. So again, we were sort of left with this question: what should our foreign policy be? Before, in the Cold War, it was clear what our strategy was. What was our strategy? What was our approach to communism in the Cold War? But again, when the Soviet Union died in 1991, what should we do after that? Should we help the poor and sick and needy? Should we just police the world's sea lanes so people can trade and the cargo ships can travel easily? Should we fight drugs? Should we fight the GWOT, the global war on terror? Should we fight against global warming? Should we protect our allies? Should we worry about China, Iran, North Korea? Should we do all the above, or maybe should we do less or nothing and save taxpayers' money? I hope this was clear. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Bye.